So my name is Jane Wild, and I'm representing the voices of Women Milton Keynes Network and the Fawcett Milton Keynes Group. And I'm really honoured to welcome you all to this 4th annual public White Ribbon Vigil in Milton Keynes. Now, I suggest that there are 3 reasons why it's important that we gather here every year on the 25th of November. Number 1 is to consider the global scale of violence. Number 2, to hear about the local prevalence and the support. And number 3, to focus on how, together, we can prevent violence against women and girls, or I'm going to call it VAWG for short, okay? So let me elaborate on these 3 things, starting with number 1 and the global scale of the issue. So the 25th of November is International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls, or VAWG, and it marks the start of 16 days of action, which goes on until the 10th of December, which is International Human Rights Day. And I've selected three facts, really, to give you some insights to consider, and I'm going to call them A, B and C, just to help you navigate them. So A, according to the United Nations, VAWG remains the most widespread and pervasive human rights violation worldwide, affecting more than an estimated 1 in 3 women. And recent global estimates show that on average, more than 5 women or girls are killed every hour by someone in their own family. Now, we're going to be here for over an hour. So, B, what are the causes? What are the root causes of VAWG? Well, they're vast, but I've selected one, which is in the opinion of Dr. Genevieve Manel from UCL. And she says that colonialism is a major cause of domestic abuse against women around the world. And this is after she found that countries which were colonised are 50 times more likely to have a high prevalence of intimate partner violence against women. And the third fact, C, in July, UN advocate Pramila Patten highlighted conflict-related sexual violence, and she dubbed it war's oldest, most silenced and least condemned crime. She also advised that the international community must ensure implementation of Security Council resolutions while adapting actions to today's conflicts to the emerging global challenges, such as cyber threats and climate-related insecurity. So it's interesting that was in July, before the conflict that's broken out with Hamas and Israel. This is all very poignant. And with a global lens, I'd like us today, when we're at the vigil, to ask ourselves, what can we do to give hope to women and girls around the globe right now and press for real action to end gender-based violence and mitigate the global risks from artificial intelligence, which is in the hands of powerful men and male institutions, and from climate change. So moving on to reason number 2 why we should gather on White Ribbon Day. It's to hear about the prevalence of VAWG in our city and about the work of the local services who support survivors of domestic abuse and sexual violence. Today is an opportunity to hear from our City Council and our local police force about the action they have taken towards their White Ribbon accreditation this year and their plans for 2024. Our Safer MK Partnership and Thames Valley Police have published VAWG strategies and identified priorities which underpin their evidence-based decision-making and many of the funding allocations that the support services can apply for. So we're very interested to hear about the latest data and what it tells us about victims and survivors, about how survivors are being served by the criminal justice system, and what long-term funding is being allocated to support services and safety schemes. And finally, reason number 3 for us to gather, it's to focus on prevention. So unlike the poppies that we wear for remembrance, the white ribbon is a badge of intent. It's the intention to take action to eradicate misogyny in all its forms. And ambassadors and champions pledge to call out violence and change culture and behaviour. Now, when people ask me how they can do that, I'm only an individual, how can I make change? I reply, well, it's about talking about the White Ribbon Pledge. And it's at every opportunity, at home, with friends, and in your workplace. Spreading the word is the way to counter those male influencers on social media who are monetising hate speech and misogyny and reaching millions of followers. We can't just rely on enforcement, say, of the new online safety bill to eradicate the viral hate and profiteering that's going on. We have to take daily white ribbon action and build people power to eradicate it. Now, a good example of people power, I think, is the 12,000-strong petition to the Independent Press Standards Organisation last year about Jeremy Clarkson's hate speech directed against the Duchess of Sussex. The public actually said enough is enough of this misogyny, and as a consequence, he was sacked. Now, with the general election in sight, can the public compel our political parties in Westminster to investigate those MPs who have been suspended over allegations of sexual misconduct? I think we've got an opportunity. So I hope you will agree with me that my case for the importance of this annual gathering is a strong one. And we'll turn out to support it over the coming years, as culture change is a long-term endeavour. I'm delighted now to welcome our speakers, and we have a range of civic leaders and members of the community who are going to speak this afternoon. So I'd like to start by inviting our first speaker to come up, and that's Day Mann, who is our High Sheriff. Day Mann.
Jane, thank you very much, and congratulations to you for getting this event together. There are some seats at the front here if people want to come and sit down, because you've got quite a few speeches to listen to. I'll therefore make mine, hopefully, mercifully, in your case, brief. You may not know anything about what the High Sheriff does. So, if nothing else, let me tell you, I'm absolutely not the mayor and mayoress who are here and who are great civic leaders in Milton Keynes alongside our elected representative, another a great civic leader, Councillor Emily Darlington, who's going to talk to you later, and other leaders who are gathered here today, or other politicians, I should say. So I'm not a politician at all. The High Sheriff is the sovereign, the King's representative in the city and in the county with regard to upholding what you might think a sheriff would uphold, which is the rule of law. So actually what the sheriff does is very much support the Thames Valley Police, the police and all the related services in the legal system, so the courts and tribunal services, the prisons, the probation service, and indeed the emergency services. So we have a responsibility, as we might have in old days when, if you think of sheriffs, they could have been strolling around the city with their, well, I suppose guns, not an appropriate word to say on a day where we're trying to look at violence, but, you know, keeping by force law and order. Well, we have a modern-day police force, and we have a very much more advanced society now. So it's an ancient honorary office. In fact, I'm the 789th High Sheriff of Buckinghamshire, so you can see how old it is. So, you know, what good can it do in this modern day and age? Well, hopefully, and this is the first thing I'd like to say, it can be an office that values and upholds and thanks those who are working, as I've said, to uphold the rule of law. And the first thing I'd like to do is to thank everybody, as High Sheriff, everybody here today for all that you do, whatever role you have in society, in order to help work for a more peaceful world and for a world that's based on democracy and understanding and healthy debate. It's an office, though, that allows you to focus on things that are important. So I'm particularly pleased to be here today because when I was invited to be High Sheriff, it was just pre-COVID, and then during the COVID period, I became aware that the rates of domestic violence, domestic abuse, sexual violence, the rise in violence generally in society was hugely on the increase. And that bothered me and troubled me. And then Sarah Everard was killed. I mean, of course, these things go on all the time and are awful, but it was the coincidence of those things that made me think that in my life I had never myself personally had any experience of some of the horrific things that I know people here have both experienced and witnessed. And so I thought, well, if I'm High Sheriff, then what I'm going to try and do is focus on giving a platform to that, shining a light on this issue in society. Now, it's very difficult as High Sheriff if you say, well, I'm going to concentrate on one thing and not do other things, because it does mean that you can't support every other charity activity that goes on. But nevertheless, what I have done is to make that choice. And indeed, I've worked with, some of them are in this room now, I worked with across Buckinghamshire all the charities that are supporting victims of domestic abuse, sexual assault, violence generally. And just yesterday, we had an event in Aylesbury because of the significance of this particular weekend, as Jane explained, to have a look at how, when we listen to people's stories, how we can perhaps help change the stories if you can bring into the room the police with the courts and the judges, all the support services, identify what could be done better and go away with a determination to change one or two things. And that's what we did yesterday. That was really me using what I call the convening power of the High Sheriff. It's not about campaigning. It's not really about actually being able to change anything yourself personally, but you can use the authority that you have as High Sheriff to bring people together to try and make the change. And that's what we did yesterday. We'll have to wait and see if some of the changes will be taken forward by all those agencies. But as again Jane said at the beginning, you just have to take steps in small ways, and hopefully you can begin to do things differently and encourage people to do things differently. Finally, I just want to say I was particularly motivated in my year as High Sheriff to concentrate on actually sustainability and the elimination of violence against women and girls, because I'm a Quaker. And so actually, in terms of the testimonies that inform my life, peace, or working for a less violent or indeed non-violent world is very core to my own personal beliefs. And therefore, in terms of today, I'm very, very pleased to join you just as the role I'm occupying, High Sheriff, but actually as a citizen of Milton Keynes, which I am, and as a Quaker who very much wishes we could all work together, as you are doing, to eliminate violence against individuals, violence against each other, and to find ways of dealing with those violent feelings that we all experience, but to find ways of dealing with them that are much more humane. So White Ribbon Day, it's terrific to see such support. I wanted to end by using it as an opportunity really to congratulate Jane Wild again in all the work that she and her colleagues have done to bring people together. Because actually, as I was saying, as High Sheriff, you can kind of do that. But it's only by working in collaboration and coming together that you can begin to make changes. So, Jane, I'd like to give you a High Sheriff of Buckinghamshire award in recognition of your services. She doesn't know about this because I thought I would use the opportunity to give you the award. So if you'd like to come up, thank you. And you did assure me you had a camera there that was going to be able to take a picture of her getting the award because I wanted to do it. Thank you for all you do. Oh, great.
Right. You guys looking clean?
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Emily. Because I'm going to then hand over and introduce Emily Darling. Well, I'm not going to introduce her because she needs no introduction. But actually, behind there, I think I might have just given you two. Yeah, she doesn't know this. But last year, yeah, I'll have to read. Last year, Emily said, I'm going to make Milton Keynes City a white ribbon city. And you've done that, Emily. So come up here. An award for you. That's what leadership's about.
I had no idea.
No, you didn't have any idea because I thought, what's the point of going to these things if you don't, you know.
Oh,
anyway, hand over to you to say a few words and congratulations to both of you.
Wow, well, I mean, that entirely unexpected and wow. We don't become councillors and city leaders for recognition, but sometimes it's very nice to be thanked for our efforts. So thank you very, very much, Anne, and thank you for everything that you do. I mean, Milton Keynes has some amazing women throughout its history who have helped formulate it into the city of opportunity and a city where women's voices can be heard. And through her work with the college and now her work with the High Sheriff has been one of those sort of founding women of our pioneering city. So my name's Emily Darlington, as we've probably figured out. I am councillor. I'm the cabinet member for adults, housing and healthy communities. And about 3 years ago, a lovely councillor from Bletchley and Fenny Town Council said, why isn't the council white ribbon? And quite frankly, I didn't have a good answer. And so not necessarily because of my cabinet brief, but though it has developed through that, I brought a motion to full council. And I said, but you know what? I'm a mum. I'm a mum of 2 girls who are here in the audience tonight. And I'm also somebody who's experienced violence and stalking. And I don't want us to build a city where that is possible. I want us to build a city where every woman, every girl feels safe, where we set a different standard of behavior, whether it's in our car parks or in our homes or in our shopping centre or in our bars. A different standard of behavior where we all work together, women and men, to say, we just don't behave like that in Milton Keynes. So the first step of that journey was to make sure that this wasn't just me and my pipe dream and that actually other people felt this way. And every single conversation that I've had, everyone's like, yes, we are building a city of the future. We are building a different city. We have robots that deliver our groceries. We're trying out driverless vehicles. Why shouldn't we also use that for social causes? Like ending and eliminating the harassment and violence against women and girls. And it couldn't have come at a better time because we know what's happening online. We know the effect that some of these pickup artist communities and incel communities and get fit communities are doing to radicalize our young men. We see it coming out at schools. We see it coming out in play parks. We see it coming out, right throughout girls growing up. And what does that say? If we're not the ones who are leaders, we're all leaders in this room, in our communities, in our city, if we're not saying, no, in Milton Keynes, we do not behave that way. And we can make all these excuses like the police don't have enough resources. That's true, they don't. But they're just part of the solution. We can say, well, the city council doesn't have enough resources. Again, that's true, but that doesn't mean we don't try. And every single organisation, I know we're all facing a cost of living crisis. I know we're all facing funding cuts in charitable sector, and it's never been harder. But the reality is, it doesn't necessarily take money. What it takes is all of us coming together, each of us in our individual lives, calling out the behaviours that we see with our young, in our homes, in our schools, in the shopping centre, at the MK Dawn, at a music event. We need to call out those behaviours. And we can all do that. And that's why White Ribbon really appeals to me, because it starts with an individual pledge. Whether you're a man or a woman, you make that pledge. And change always starts with yourself. There's a wonderful quote that I have up in my office. The family knows it well. It says, "Be the change you want to see." So it starts with us. And then we bring it to organizational level. I am so happy, starting with Thames Valley Police, Milton Keynes, and Milton Keynes Council, we became White Ribbon accredited organizations. And now the fire service has joined us. The ambulance service has joined us. But it doesn't stop there. We look at our businesses. Centre MK, I haven't been there today because I'm a bit scared because they say 100,000 shoppers have been through there today. But each of their digital advertising is talking about White Ribbon today on their very busiest day, and we're in long-term discussions about how we create safe spaces. And they did that for free. They did that because they want any woman shopping there to feel safe. And any man who is an upstander, and this is a phrase I'm stealing from White Ribbon, to no longer be a bystander. For us to change that story. So that when people go to the shopping centre, the story isn't, "Oh, I felt uncomfortable." The story is, "I felt completely safe." Now, wouldn't that be fantastic? And it doesn't just stop there. YMCA have coming on board. Milton Keynes Act have always been on board because they are our fantastic, fantastic domestic abuse partners. John Lewis have come on board. I'm going to miss out people and they'll be upset. Mears, who do our housing repairs and maintenance, they're on board so that anytime they walk into a home and they sense there is a problem, they know what to do because they get access into homes that potentially they wouldn't do. So the OU's on board. There's so many individual organisations that are creating that mass of change within Milton Keynes. And, this certificate is not about finishing something. We aren't yet a White Ribbon City in my view. We can become a White Ribbon City, and I appreciate it's something I made up, but because we will be the first White Ribbon City. And that's because a White Ribbon City means there is no place in this city that women and girls shouldn't feel safe. And I can't forget the amazing work of our parish councils that of course come on board. It started at Bletchley and Fenny, Newport Pagnell Town Council, Shenley Brook End, Great Linford, and others are all coming on board. And what difference would that make to a city? Well, if we didn't spend a lot of time as women and girls wondering about how to dress differently and how to protect ourselves and all of those different things that we do spend quite a bit of time learning on how to carry our keys so we're safe when we get back to our cars or to our homes. If we spent less time doing that, we could spend more time creating opportunity, becoming amazing, becoming the great city that we should all be. So my plea to each and every single one of you, whatever community you live in, whatever business you work in, raise this issue. Raise it. Say, can we do White Ribbon? And see what kinds of conversations that you can start to create. Giving that space not only just for women to talk about their individual stories and experiences, which is so, so important, but also giving space to the silent majority of men who would never consider harassing or being violent against a woman. Making sure that they move from being upstanders to stop being bystanders, making that voice heard, making that, because we are the majority. Andrew Tate can do whatever he wants, and all of his mates online can do whatever they want. We are the majority in Milton Keynes, and we can say that that behaviour does not ever belong in our city. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Olga Jurasz. I'm a professor of law at the Open University. It's a pleasure to be here today, so thank you so much for coming. And thank you very much to Jane at the beginning, not only for organizing all this event and for bringing us together, but for drawing so beautifully on international origins of today's day, but also drawing to our attention the truly international and global scale of the pandemic that the violence against women and girls is and has been for a while. When we think about violence against women and girls, it is truly global, but it has very, very local impacts. And this relationship between international and local is something that I really would like to draw on in my remarks today. Now, when we think about the law, it can very often feel far, far removed from lived experiences of people that it is meant to serve, especially women. Law very often is criticized for being gender blind, and rightly so. Now, why is this the case? For many, many years, women have been not actors in lawmaking, not even for years, for centuries. What that meant is that many laws, many rules have been created by men, for men, and taking purely male perspective into account. Now, this meant that in practice, women's experiences have been pretty much sidelined within the legal system, within the rules, legal structures, and within the criminal justice system. Just to give you one example, and there are many, but this is not a lecture, so I'm mindful of my time here. It is only in 1991 that the law in England and Wales recognized marital rape, which means it recognized that a husband can rape his wife. Luckily, times do change, and however slowly, so do the laws. We now have laws in place which prohibit and punish various forms of violence against women and girls, and many of them are a result of tireless campaigning by many women and some men, both at local and international levels. Now, whilst it's quite easy to feel that laws that are created in New York, in Geneva, in Strasbourg, are quite far removed from what's happening in Milton Keynes or in Buckinghamshire, the ripple effects that these laws have real impact on women living here. And I would like to give you a couple of examples of why this is the case. For quite a few years now, violence against women and girls and domestic violence have been recognized as human rights violations, not only by the European Court of Human Rights, but also more recently within the Istanbul Convention, which is the first European treaty, Council of Europe treaty, on preventing violence against women and girls and domestic violence. UK has been a party only for just over a year, but that's quite an important development in this country. What that means is that violence against women, sexual violence and domestic violence are not just acts that are committed between private individuals. It's not something that just happens in private. What it means is that by viewing it as human rights violation, states can also be held accountable for failing to prevent violence against women and girls, or for failure to investigate, punish, and remedy it. Now, thanks to international laws, such as the UN Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, that's quite a handful, so this is called CEDAW in short, and Istanbul Convention, we now have a concept of positive obligations. What that means is that states that are parties to international agreements are required to do more than just enact legislation to prevent violence against women and girls. They must put systematic measures and solutions in place to prevent, to investigate, punish, and remedy violence against women and girls. Now, what is more, United Kingdom, as party to these conventions, is obliged to report periodically and comprehensively on actions taken in respect of its international obligations to tackle violence against women and girls. These reports not only ensure transparency at an international and local levels, but also accountability. And we have seen them being quite powerful tools for civil society organizations that campaign for change. So, seems like all is good. We've got international laws, and thanks to those laws, we have laws and structures in place in the UK which enable accountability for violence against women and girls. This in itself, of course, is significant. But at the same time, there are ongoing and new challenges in tackling violence against women and girls. We see the rise in online and technologically facilitated violence against women and girls, something that Emily has mentioned. This has real and lasting effects on the lives of women and girls. According to Girl Guiding, 37% of girls and young women aged 11 to 21 have been sent upsetting photos or content by people they know. This is a rise of 17% from 10 years ago. 60% of 11 to 21-year-olds who responded to the Girl Guiding survey said they worried about the negative impact that being online had on their mental health. We also see the rise in misogyny, not only online, where we witness the rise of misogynistic influencers who promote violence against women and girls and often incite to it, quite openly so, but also amongst the police force. Institutional misogyny is a real and serious obstacle to women reporting violence and one of many barriers to justice for victims of violence against women and girls. Now, these issues, of course, cannot continue unchallenged. Whilst the law, international or national, provides very good tools to address violence against women and girls once it occurred, the law alone cannot and will never be able to prevent violence against women and girls. It is important to remember that violence against women and girls is predominantly a societal problem. It is a societal challenge. It has roots in patriarchy, misogyny, and gender inequalities. And it is therefore a task for each and every one of us to take action against violence against women and girls, whether it's online or offline, and not just on the 25th of November. Thank you.
This is very intimidating, by the way. So for those of you who I've not had the pleasure of speaking to or working with in the past, my name is Jay Virgo, and I'm the Communications and Engagement Manager for the LGBTQ+ charity for Milton Keynes Q Alliance. I'm also a very fortunate trustee for Milton Keynes Community Foundation. I just wanted to say, first and foremost, thank you very much for inviting me to speak here, even though I'm slightly terrified. So I am reading off my phone, I do apologise. I am a man of statistics. I do love a number for those who have worked with me before, so do bear with me. I'm going to throw a lot at you very quickly. It's imperative that we come together to discuss the issues facing all women and girls around violence, and how we as a city have a choice about where we stand on this side of history. We have the choice to not only implement, but to embed systems into our city that affect and change the way we ensure that these issues are tackled, or to not. Over the past 2 years, I've had the pleasure of forefronting impactful spaces and services that support trans women, a group who now more than ever need our support. Now, for those of you who do know me professionally, I do really, really love a statistic, so please bear with me. This isn't for everybody, but I think it's important. So some of you may be aware of the hate crime statistics over the past few years, and I'm going to go through them with you. In the year ending March 2022, there were recorded 155,000 plus hate crimes recorded in England and Wales, a 26% increase on the previous year, that being the highest increase since 2017, which was a 29% increase. The 2022 reported that LGBTQ plus hate crime is up by over 9,000 cases. These figures show a 41% increase against those who identify as LGB and a staggering 56% against those who identify as trans. It should be noted that, of course, that these increases may be due to more incidents occurring, especially with hot topic social media, but also because we are empowering the community to file a report. This year, so far, homophobic hate crime has dropped by 6%. However, trans has risen by 11%. To put that in perspective for us as a city, per the census report, which showed us that a minimum of 0.25% of Milton Keynes' population identifies themselves as trans, with 0.13% being trans women. That's at least 332 people in Milton Keynes, and I must add that is only people who filled in the census report. 15,000 people who filled in the report chose not to disclose their gender identity. So statistically, that is a lot higher. An article published by Stonewall from the research done by Gallup, and if you don't know who Gallup are, I implore you to go and do your research, they are wonderful, reads that 3 in 10 have experienced physical violence and 2 in 10 have experienced sexual violence. Hate crime and all forms of violence don't just affect our trans community, they affect all manner of other identities within the LGBTQ+ demographic, such as women who identify as lesbian, bisexual, asexual, and so forth. By no means do I imply that one cause deserves higher focus than another. All forms of violence are abhorrent, and we must lead the charge in putting a stop to the violence against women and girls. And only through our continued efforts and collaborations can we truly impact such an imperative matter for the city of Milton Keynes and beyond. I do not share the lived experience of women and girls. I am a man. I will never truly be able to understand, but I do know what it feels like to be a victim of violence. I was that struggling voice, the receiving end of physical abuse and hardship. I stand here as both a representative of my organisation, but as a compassionate and caring human being who simply wishes for my community to live happy, healthy, and fulfilling lives. I have only been working in Milton Keynes for a short time, but I have no intention of letting up when it comes to the well-being of our communities. I stand before you and I pledge that I am here through thick and thin and that you have an exceptionally fierce ally on your side. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you to all our speakers so far. I'd like to invite Frozan now, Frozan Morofi, to come up and speak. She's from the Afghan community in Milton Keynes. Thank you, Frozan.
Thank you very much. And my friend know me that because I am very new with English language. Therefore, I am reading my speech from the piece of paper. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and kind friends, greeting to all of you and on this significant occasion as we stand to reduce gender-based violence. It is an honor to be here as a speaker, addressing such vital and timely causes as we delve into these 16 days activism. Let's reflect on the importance of raising our voices. Raising our voices against any type of inequality, violence for all gender. Let's use this platform to share stories, knowledge, and perspective that contribute to dismantling the barrier perpetuating gender-based violence. When I reflect on the past year, together through our collective effort, we can inspire awareness, understanding, and ultimately positive action. The journey we undertook was not easy, and I encapsulated them all in a written words and sentences under the title of The Spiritual Essence Turned to Business. In a world where strengths put to the test, women raise voices, strong manifest. Through 16 days of activism, beat, stories break the silence, a rhythmic feat. Modern violence, a haunting reality, yet they fight with unwavering vitality. Challenging systems that fail to see their true depth of adversity. The spiritual essence turned to business, leaving women feeling alone, cries dismissed. But remember, dear friend, you are not on your own. Together we will raise our spirits brightly shone. When feeling down, just reach out your hand. Others will understand. Together we stand. In unity, we will stand strong and tall. Breaking barriers, we all conquer them all. The world may not always comprehend struggle faced by women, strength unbent, but we will keep fighting, raising our voice for future where equality is the choice. Stay resilient, my friend. Stay resilient, my friend, in this shared fight. Through rhythms of courage shown, we care, unite. No matters the challenges that comes our way, together we will create a brighter days. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this crucial issue. Let's make these 16 days powerful statement of our commitment to ending gender-based violence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Farzan. Yeah, that's a rousing call for us all. So next I'd like to invite Chief Inspector Ewan Livingstone to come up and speak. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Ewan Livingstone. I'm the Chief Inspector here at Milton Keynes, Deputy LPA Commander, and I'm Emma Bailey, who is our Chief Superintendent. I'm her deputy. So she is at another event, and actually as a male police officer, actually I think it'd be quite powerful for me being here tonight, as we all know some of the recent history that police officers wearing the same uniform as I'm wearing now have committed some of the worst crimes that we have seen and heard and read about that have been recited time and again. So what I'd like to do today is start off with the White Ribbon Promise. So I promise to never use, excuse or remain silent about men's violence against women. I've been given a bit of a blank canvas actually tonight to talk about what White Ribbon Action has kind of made on Thames Valley police culture. And I'd like to take you through a bit about national context, just briefly. And from something I've learned from working with lots of partners, colleagues, friends in the room, it's not about what just Thames Valley Police are doing, it's about what we're doing in Milton Keynes. Because with the greatest respect to Reading and Slough and colleagues in Oxford, we want to know about what your police service are doing in Milton Keynes, And the biggest phrase I've used time and again, with whatever forum it is I've spoken at, is we will not arrest our way out of singular crime types. And that was something I spoke about a lot this time last year when the Knife Angel, the National Monument Against Violence and Aggression, came to Milton Keynes. We will not arrest our way out of knife crime. And some of the work and the legacy work that came from that partnership and collaborative approach to solving and preventing knife crime is where we find ourselves at the moment, where we are seeing significant reductions compared to what we had 2 years ago. Some of the statistics, and I'm not a statistics man, but I am going to give you some, okay? Because people can interpret statistics how you want, and we can look at the numbers to get the percentages and things, and I've been asked many times about that, so I will give you some. However, for me, it comes quite simply down to, do you feel safe in Milton Keynes? Do parents want their children to play in swing parks in Milton Keynes? And if they don't through fear of knife crime and violence, that means more to me as a dad of 2 boys than saying that we've reduced knife-enabled crime or sexual violence by X%. If the public don't feel safe in Milton Keynes, we need to do more. So the National Monument Against Violence and Aggression, a lot of the work started a year ago, and the legacy of that still continues. So genuinely, I appreciate being here today, and I'm just going to take you through some of the key bullet points, and I am going to read from some of it, because I don't want to miss any of the bullet points. National context, Deputy Chief Constable Maggie Blythe from the National Police Chiefs Council, who has impact across all 43 police forces in England and Wales, will talk about a moment of criticality, what I've spoken about already. Male police officers in the same uniform I wear today committed the most horrendous crimes. Now, am I angry? Yes. I've spent my working life since the age of 19 helping everybody from whatever culture, gender, age, sexuality. I've come to work to help people. And it's awful what that has done to policing. And we now have to recover trust and confidence from the public. So not only externally, but internally. You look at the Baroness Casey review of David Carrick, Wayne Couzens, some of the trust and confidence issues now within the Metropolitan Police. Is this just singular in the Metropolitan Police? No. It's policing. So we have to evolve, we have to change. If we get it right internally, if we look at our cultures, our behaviours, there's lots of words that have been said by lots of very good speakers before me today, and a lot of the words are all within my speech. So we're all talking about the same things, cultures, behaviours, misogyny, and how we perform. If we perform as a police service and we are good at what we can uniquely do, and that's investigate crime, prevention is a big word somebody else just said as well. How do we embed prevention? If we prevent crime, it means we're ahead of it before it happens. We don't want massive reactive police teams that react, because the second you phone 999, the crime's happened. We're instantly on the back foot. So how do we get ahead of that? Hence why I say we won't arrest our way out of this. So it's how we work together, how we work with communities, from fire service, colleagues in nightclubs, and all of the different councillors and politicians and community members that are here. So this is the start. And we're very much part of the community in Milton Keynes. We are not, we're not the police, and that's the community. Most of our police officers live in Milton Keynes or on the surrounding borders. They shop in the same shops, their children go to the same schools. So they are very much part of the community in Milton Keynes. So it's advantageous for us all, not just the community, all, that we're part of it. So behaviours in society, government, about the Enough campaign, societal change to seatbelts and smoking, actually the standards and society behaviour that we won't tolerate behaviours, and we have confidence to phone the police, or the confidence to potentially, if it's safe to do so, be an upstander and intervene. Or one of the 5 Ds, if somebody can nod at me if I'm correct in saying that from some recent training, what's the safest way to be able to do that? It doesn't have to be an intervention. Some people might not be confident enough to do that, but there's other ways to do so. So how do we engage with all of our communities? Protecting all of our communities is what we have to do as police officers, as a police service. But we have to engage everyone. Our seldom heard communities, domestic abuse in particular, is hidden harm. It's very difficult sometimes because it can be hidden. So we can be reliant upon communities, charities, organisations to help us. And I look at our detective inspector sat in the audience from our domestic abuse unit tonight as well, who will deal with some of the most serious domestic abuse cases. So it's advantageous. So at a national level, it's absolutely recognised as one of the key priorities. Policing can't just have one priority. Knife crime, violence against women and girls, exploitation, missing children, serious violence and homicide. You can't just not do one of them. So there are multiple priorities, and we have to embrace that. We have to embrace that. And yes, resourcing. I can't go to a meeting without talking about resourcing, especially community forums. But we have to be smart. We have to be better. We have to be transparent, and we have to say it might be the answer somebody doesn't want, but actually we have to put our police officers in the nighttime economy, because that's where the serious violence, that's where sexual violence is happening. And I apologise to the rural community, but at the moment, it might be that that's where we must have our police officers, and the data, the intelligence, the information we have from the public is what supports that. And we have to be transparent and tell people exactly what we're doing. So, as your local service, at a Thames Valley Police level, we have a strategic lead, Katie Barrow-Grint. Many of you will know Katie. My wife worked directly to Katie until recently and was the lead for Project Vigilant, which I'll come on to, for the whole force. So the investment that Thames Valley Police have made within violence against women and girls. So becoming White Ribbon accredited November last year. A focus on the pillars from the Borg plan, so to speak, internal and external trust and confidence. And what the plan looks like. It's not just a plan which is another plan, which just sits up there to say we've got one. It's we as a senior management team in Milton Keynes are held to account. Our duty inspectors, our sergeants who are out there at the moment. I was in the nighttime economy till 1 o'clock this morning, which is probably why I sound slightly jaded. And I was out on patrol with the team, and it was engaging with the door staff. It was working with our security industry, security officers as well, making sure that they have what they need. What behaviours. There was an example that I saw firsthand last night, a female who was a bit worse for wear, and there was a male with her. Are you meant to be with her? Can we track you back together to somewhere that you've been differently? Have you just latched onto this lady? How do we know? How can we evidence this? People haven't committed a crime, but we are now looking at, it's that professional curiosity. It's making sure people are safe. So, and I watched that firsthand from our officers last night. And it's a very young cohort of officers. From the big influx in recruitment into policing, we have a significant, we have more police officers than we've had, which is a good thing. We have doubled our neighbourhood resources, which is a good thing. So hopefully you'll start to see more police officers in our estates, in our communities. But it's getting them out there. It's making sure you're confident and you can speak to them and have the ability to speak to them. The relentless pursuit of perpetrators. That's one key piece that only we can do. So what are we doing? How are we delivering that? Are we telling the public what we do? So we should be confident. So if you see more publicity around we have charged and remanded somebody, we are seeking the public's help. It's not always there. It's not designed to scare people to think I'm unsafe. We are telling you that we are going after these people. It might be that a crime type goes up. Does that mean people have more confidence to tell us now? So actually an increase in a crime type doesn't necessarily mean it's negative. It might mean an increase in reporting through confidence. So safer spaces for women and girls as well, which I will come on to about Milton Keynes and some of the great collaboration we've had in particular with Milton Keynes Council and some of the Safer Streets funding that we had from the Home Office and what we've done with that. Culture, big word. How do you change a culture? People have written books on it, turn Navy submarines around and all sorts of things with books on culture, but we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere, otherwise nothing will change. So culture, ensuring that we have a culture inside our organisation which is fit to serve the public in today's society. But we are not in some foregone era, so we are up to date and we're delivering the service the public expect. Misogynistic behaviours, sexual assaults, listening to the voice of our communities, listening to the voice of our staff, our police officers. There's some here tonight, they're sat in the audience with you. Talk to them. When we walk down, speak to them. Hopefully don't just take my word for it. Ask them what they do on a daily basis. Come out with us. I always offer this to people. Come out, do a ride along with us. We're there 24 hours a day, every day of the week. Come out with us. Come and sit in our cars, by all means, anytime. Come and sit in our patrol cars. Honestly, the offer is open. Go on the website, select to do a ride-along, and come and work and sit with our police officers and see what they go to. See how they deal with members of the public. From one moment, it's a horrendous injury, road traffic accident. The next minute, it could be the first disclosure of a serious sexual offence. And see how they deal with that. You're very welcome. Understanding through surveys, courageous conversations, healthy team culture training. Every supervisor in Thames Valley Police will have healthy team culture training. Understanding behaviours, understanding the new generation of police officers that are coming through. So when I started nearly 20 years ago, that is different to when officers are starting now. So what's changing? What's different? So we need to be alive to that. New policy, nationally recognised for some of the innovation work. Now, I'll ask the question, I don't think people will answer me, but who watches Love Island? Does anybody watch Love Island? Right, okay. I bet there's a few more, but you're not going to tell me. So Sharon Gaffiger, does anybody know the name? Sharon Gaffiger. So Thames Valley Police have worked with Sharon Gaffiger and just look at a different approach. How can we use a different platform? You have a male police officer. Do people trust male police officers? No? Okay, and we understand why, and I've spoke about that. But Sharon Gaffiger comes from a completely different perspective than me. She has a social media platform for a start with millions of people, I think, lots and lots, hundreds of thousands of people, and can look at how we, and test, and has gone out with our staff, looked at how we deliver Project Vigilant. So we're trying to use our innovation to be different. Upstander. Now, I've got bystander training here, and I'm sure it was bystander training for Susie Lamplugh Trust. However, bystander is upstander. So I have a question mark next to that already. I've written it down as I was stood there. So, and recruitment into Thames Valley Police. 48% of new recruits now are female. The diversity of our staff, cognitive, cultural diversity, it has to be that the community are reflective. They see in their police service what they see in the community. So actually it's the highest intakes of ethnic diversity and female officers as well. And actually Emma Bailey, which I'll be quick because I'm going on a little bit, sorry. Emma Bailey, Chief Superintendent. So the restructure of Thames Valley Police, we're going from 11 local policing areas to 5 local command units. Emma is now our Chief Superintendent in Milton Keynes and will be here for the foreseeable future. Emma's one of the most senior police officers in Thames Valley Police, one of the most senior female police officers. So we have Emma in Milton Keynes. We have 48% of our new recruits are female coming into our policing service, which is brilliant. Collaboration, working with Milton Keynes City Council. So we secured about £750,000 from the Home Office, and we worked because we listened to the community. We listened to the survey, and we listened to what's important to the public in Milton Keynes. So feeling safe in open spaces. So looking at our CCTV, how the CCTV can be embedded, sustainable, not just whilst we've got money from the Home Office. It's sustainable for a long period of time. And I look back to the knife crime, and I keep going back to that because I look at the platforms when you've got a council and charities and faith groups and education and policing services, emergency services who do work together. We are not in silo. It is a collaborative approach to try and make sure we are not working in silo and it's 1 minute it's a waste of money because someone else is duplicating the work. So we are working together. Project Vigilant. Does anybody not know? Quick show of hands. Does anybody know what Project Vigilant is? Okay. So Project Vigilant then, very quickly, is the deployment of officers who are specially trained to look for and detect predatory behaviour. We're the highest user of that operation in Milton Keynes across the whole of the Thames Valley. Now, we've had that because we've had the Safer Streets and we've had some funding, but we didn't just use the funding to deploy more police officers until the funding ran out. We used some of that funding to train a big cohort of our police officers. So it's now sustainable and it's embedded in our business as usual. So when we identify predatory behaviour, we can deal with it. We can look at these men, we can track them, we can look at their intelligence, we can build a profile, and we've got lots of different ways to do that in the police. Look at Crime Watch. My wife was on Crime Watch, and she did a Project Vigilant deployment in Reading. So if you want to search a Project Vigilant deployment, type it into YouTube and it will come up and you can see what she did. Invested in the cohort of specially trained officers. Operation Dizzy. There's a huge cry for we want to see more police officers. I want to see police officers. I take that as a compliment. The fact that people say I want to see the police officers in Milton Keynes, there's a lot of places in society don't want that. So the fact you want to see us is a good thing. So we need to be visible. When we have been visible, we know that whilst we've been running the Safer Streets project with the local authority, we've seen 19% reductions in sexual violence in the city. That's coupled with a 20% reduction, and a 20% reduction, I'm talking that's into the hundreds of crimes. 20% reduction in serious violence. So you're looking at ABH and above, serious violence. Knife crime. Knife crime in Milton Keynes is down. Look at what happened beginning of 2022. 4 knife-related homicides. Lots of public, lots of press around stabbings. Sexual violence. We've seen all of the negative press, and all of this work is legacy work, and there is a feel, and you talk to people, the communities tell us that. We want you to feel safe. So that then highlights the changes. Also, our stalking panel, actually, Laura sits on the stalking panel. We're looking at the way stalking, we're looking at how the DCI, we've got a Detective Chief Inspector, and we're looking at some of the most serious stalking cases, and how we're not just leaving with response officers to investigate. Actually, what can we do to pull some of these work out? Is it sat in the right place? Should we put some of this into our CID teams? What about domestic abuse unit? Looking at the risk ratings. So there's so much complexity, but people like Laura, our detective teams, are really heavily invested and involved in this work. So looking at all of that as well. And then I'm just going to finish on some stats, because I promised I would. So overall charges. I said we have to be good at what we do. If we're good at what we do, and only we can do as a police service, so we can charge people to court. When they get to court, we have to have faith and trust in the criminal justice system that we have to secure the right evidence, put these right people in front of the courts, and hopefully they go to prison and they're not on our streets. So we will continue to try and fill the prisons. We will continue to try and fill the courts, and we're doing a good job of it. So we've had a 16% increase in overall charges in Milton Keynes year to date. We've seen increased charge rates in domestic abuse, stalking and sexual offences. So they are the crimes that are of most serious concern to the public. The strategic priorities in Thames Valley Police are knife-enabled crime, violence against women and girls, and neighbourhood crimes. And all of them in Milton Keynes. We have reduced knife-enabled crime. We are charging more people with the offences which are hidden harm, sexual violence, and we've had the highest reductions in neighbourhood crimes, robberies, burglaries, and vehicle crimes than anywhere else in the Thames Valley. So that doesn't mean we're complacent. That doesn't mean we stop. There's lots of work to do. If there's no calls for us to go to, which is never the case, we'll go and find the work. So I hope I've been able to answer a bit about what impact has White Ribbon Action had on Thames Valley Police culture. And I hope you can see how seriously we take it within Thames Valley Police. So thank you for listening to me.
So thank you, Chief Inspector. That was really, really insightful, and very grateful for you sharing so much of what you do. Next, I'd like to invite Becky Osborne up to speak. So Becky is from the sexual abuse. Well, I think you better introduce it. Yeah, come along, Becky. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Sorry, yes, we do have one of the longest organisational names in history, so don't worry, I'll cover that. Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here. My name's Becky Osborne, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Sexual Assault. You threw me off there, Jane. Sexual Assault and Abuse Support Service here in Milton Keynes. You can call us SAS for short. And we do have some leaflets at the back if anyone here is affected by sexual assault or abuse, or knows someone that needs support. We'll support anyone in Milton Keynes from the ages of 16 upwards, but as you can imagine, the vast majority of people that we do support are women. So my role here today, I'm not really going to be talking about myself or even my organisation really, but I'm going to be here to talk through about everything that we have learnt from the women and girls that we've supported in Milton Keynes. We see around 600 plus new women and girls every year in Milton Keynes reach out to us for support, and that number rises year on year. So I'm here to stand with the 600 women and girls who have reached out to our support services this year in Milton Keynes. I'm also here to stand with the women and girls who require our services but we haven't met yet. I'm here standing with the women who wait on average 3 to 5 years to get their day in court. And I'm here standing with the women who are standing in court and have their counselling notes used as a weapon against their character. I'm standing here with the women who are denied justice by police and criminal justice agencies, where 96% of cases are not charged and 99% of cases are not convicted. And that means that in Milton Keynes here today, 99% of the suspects and people and the men who have allegations of sexual violence against them are walking around us without any consequences for their actions whatsoever. We've talked a lot and we've heard a lot about safety and trust, but as a woman living in Milton Keynes, these statistics do not give me a sense of safety. They do not give me a sense of trust in the system. I'm standing here for the girl who no longer goes to school because she fears for her safety, she fears for bullying, and she fears that she will have intimate images of her shared without her consent. And I'm standing here for those girls who no longer have access to specialist support in Milton Keynes because the funding was discontinued last year in 2022. I'm standing here for the woman who feels unsafe in her workplace, who shares looks with other women when their leering male colleagues are around. I'm standing for the women who are told that sexual violence is a, quote, workplace hazard. I'm standing for the women who are told that they are to blame because of what they wore, what they said, or how they acted before they were attacked. I'm standing for the women who use drugs and alcohol as a method of coping and surviving after experiencing sexual violence, and who are told that their subsequent homelessness is a, quote, lifestyle choice. I'm standing for the LGBT women who were raped in an attempt to, quote, make them straight. I'm standing with the women and girls who risk being excommunicated from their communities if they speak out about the abuse that they have experienced. So to all of those women and girls who have been, and any others in Milton Keynes who have been impacted by men's violence against them, I say this: I see you, we're here for you, and you are not alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. I'd like to then bring our last speaker up, which is Lisa Lovell. Welcome, Lisa.
I should try not to turn the computer off when I put my iPad on. Okay. Good evening. I'm really thankful to be here today to speak at this event with the theme of Change the Story for Women and Girls. Violence against women and girls is inherently connected through intersectionality. It can affect any woman or any girl regardless of their background, ethnicity, religion, age, or gender. However, some women and girls will face additional barriers to support, as we've already heard, and therefore need the government and the local partners to consider systemic barriers facing Black and minoritised women, migrant women, deaf and disabled women, women from Gypsy and Romani traveller community, and LGBTQ+ survivors. Research indicates that disadvantaged and vulnerable groups are disproportionately affected by VAUG. As a disabled woman, I have experienced violence. To be honest, I always looked at it from the perspective of being a woman and not as a Black disabled woman. Being disabled is part of who I am, and it cannot be changed. How differently abled people are viewed in an ableist society definitely impacts on the issue of violence against women and girls. To address this issue comprehensively, it is imperative
that we challenge these harmful stereotypes and work towards creating a more inclusive, accessible society. This involves amplifying the voices of all, as well as Black disabled women, providing platforms for their stories to be heard and dismantling barriers that will limit their participation in various aspects of life. Additionally, we must advocate for policies that specifically address the unique challenges faced by Black disabled women in the context of violence. This includes ensuring that support services are accessible and culturally competent. Training and healthcare professionals, as well as police agencies, have training on intersectionality and implementing inclusive policies that address the root causes of violence in marginalised communities. As speakers have already mentioned, this starts with us as individuals. What can we do to make a difference or bring about change? Create an environment where people, women with disabilities are seamlessly integrated, empowered and celebrated for who they are and not what they look like. Where words are a seed, a catalyst for change, lived or shared experience that brings insight. Where our thoughts can spark an idea for a solution, and our response can change perceptions, bring about new learning and open dialogue. Self-awareness that shows empathy, understanding, openness and honesty. How we treat others can be a mirror that offers reflection for safety and growth. In conclusion, violence against women and girls is a deeply ingrained issue that requires a nuanced and intersectional approach. By centering the experiences of Black disabled women in our discourse and advocacy, we can move closer to a society that recognises and addresses diverse challenges faced by all its members. Let us commit ourselves to creating a world where every woman and girl, regardless of her race or ability, can live free from the scourge of violence. We are stronger when we work together. Thank you.
So thank you. Thanks to all our speakers. That concludes our session here in the event space. And I just want to wrap up by saying, thank you so much to everybody who's come along. And I hope you will come along with us to the MK Rose, where we're going to have a short vigil now. I just want to say thank you to my fellow co-organisers of this event, who are Delia Shepherd from the Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council. We've got Anne-Marie Smith from Milton Keynes Council and Josanne Race from Community Action MK. And again, thank all our speakers that we've heard from this evening and all yourselves really. And again, a call out to continue your support for this white ribbon movement in our city. And, let's see next year when we gather together, what we've achieved together. So thank you very much. I'm going to offer the opportunity now to take a short break. There are some toilets upstairs, and outside we have the Pink Punters, who have brought along their wonderful Pink Punters bus when they'll be serving some refreshments. So please go along there before we make our way at 5:45 down to the Rose for our vigil. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
So we have worked with the White Ribbon organisation in Milton Keynes to just further their objectives, really. So what we've done at the club is we've introduced a number of measures which are in line with reducing violence, domestic violence, and all forms of sexual or harassment against women. So a number of our policies and strategies are geared around tackling those measures. So I think all businesses across the UK need to, particularly those of the nighttime economy, I think they just need to do as much as they can, but actually, even if it's just down to pure awareness and understanding and not allowing themselves or other men to make inappropriate comments without them being challenged, that's probably about one of the most important things that people can do. When you hear inappropriate comments about women, it's important that we step in at that point and say that's not acceptable. For us, our women's welfare and safety policy has been instrumental in engineering how we operate and how we coordinate all our actions and projects to reduce violence and inappropriate behaviour against.
And firstly, thank you everybody for coming out on such a cold evening. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, today we gather to honour and remember all those affected by men's violence against women and girls. The lived experiences of women and girls guide the work of White Ribbon UK and drive their work with men and boys to stop the violence before it stops. Today, on White Ribbon Day and the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, we are asking men to act, because White Ribbon Day is also about male participation. With the active participation of men, we can eradicate violence against women in our lifetimes. And when I say that, it's not just about wearing a badge on your coat when on the day. It's about life-changing behaviours day in, day out. Together we can change the story so women and girls can live their lives free from fear of violence. As men, we can be part of the solution, not the problem, as we should be. So please, if you haven't already, I encourage you to make and share the White Ribbon Promise with your friends and family, for all your organisations, your business, your employment places in our city, to show your support by registering as a supporter organisation and becoming an ambassador and a champion for this cause. Milton Keynes City Council and many local organisations have already done this, as was said earlier, and I'm very proud of every single one of them for doing so. A better future for men and women is possible if we all work together every day to treat each other with compassion and respect. To never use, excuse or remain silent about men's violence against women. Finally, thank you everybody for coming and showing your support today. It's heartening and I'm very emotional to see so many people here today, men and women, actually standing up for against violence between women and girls. So thank you very much. I'll now pass on to my better half, as I was only the warm-up act for the Mayoress.
Thank you. And I'd just like to pick up, can you hear me? It sounds like the sound's gone. Yeah. Pick up on what Jane said at the beginning about some of the reasons why there is violence against women and girls. So in my role previous to becoming the Mayoress as senior practitioner with children and family practice within Milton Keynes City Council, working with families with complex needs, I've worked with many women and girls affected by violence from men. I've heard and read things no one should ever experience. And I've seen how this violence impacts on the children of the women and their wider families, and how violence destroys lives. Sometimes this pattern of violence has been repeating through families for generations, and from babies in the womb to teenagers. Living in fear changes how a child's brain is wired up, and this impacts on the child's ability to be ready to learn when they go to school, and makes children more likely or more susceptible to mental health difficulties and more likely to be excluded from school, because if they have experienced all this stress in their developmental stages, that means that when they try to sit down at school, that they find that really difficult. So they get labelled as naughty children, and that label sticks with them and goes through with them and can often lead to exclusion later on down the line. In my 20s, I was in a car on the motorway, being driven by my then boyfriend. We started to argue, and in anger, he started swerving across 3 lanes at 80 miles an hour. And I was absolutely terrified and thought I was going to die in that moment. And since then, and up until now, I've been unable to drive on big dual carriageways and motorways. I say up until now because I've never given up on one day being able to overcome this fear, to stand firm and say, "You have not beaten me." To get to the root of this huge societal problem, one of the routes to working with the problem is trauma-informed support is needed to give people an opportunity to explore the unresolved and complex childhood trauma and to help build resilience and change harmful patterns of behaviour. And I use the example about myself because I just wanted to kind of take that on another step. So the boyfriend I mentioned earlier, he wasn't born violent. He witnessed unpredictable, often violent behaviours from his father to his mother, which wired his brain up to be highly reactive to the stress of conflict. When experiencing even a low level of conflict, his strategy for protection from the feelings that he did not want to experience from his childhood fear was to stop at all costs the conflict he could not cope with. So swerving across the highway achieved that. I was frozen and didn't speak again on that journey. So together, let's change the story. Let's do everything we can to ensure that we live in a society where we can all feel safe, where mental illness becomes less common, where violence against women and girls no longer exists. Thank you.
Well done.
Please come in next.
Got Sky and Thank you. Thank you. Hi, I'm Sky. I'm a domestic violence advisor and I work at MK Act in the Crisis Intervention Service. The first poem that we're going to read today is about a woman in crisis.
I'm Georgia. I also work for MK Act. I'm based at the Refuge as the Senior Children and Young People Support Worker. The second poem that we'll be reading is written by a lady that actually lived in the Refuge.
The first poem's called But He Didn't Hit Me. He just went through my phone every time I was in the shower, provoking fights that would last for hours, always apologising with a bouquet of flowers. But he didn't hit me.
He just hated all my friends, told me they were no good. He would remind me that I was unworthy, and any time I spoke to a man, he would accuse me of being flirty, but he didn't hit me.
He laughed, saying no one else would ever love me, making me feel nothing but useless and ugly. But he still didn't hit me.
He would just break all of our things on the rare occasions I decided to go out, coming home to his aggressive shouts. He deleted all of my contacts who were men, telling me to never speak to them again, but he didn't hit me.
He just wouldn't listen when I said no, every day stealing a little more of my glow. He would criticise my appearance, calling me stupid, every day weakening my resilience, but he still didn't hit me.
He would just threaten his own life when I would try to leave, even cutting himself in front of me one eve, but he didn't hit me.
He just made me hate myself every day, worried how the hell I would get away. He still didn't hit me, until he did.
One day, he overheard a call.
Hearing that I was leaving, he pushed me toward the wall.
He put his hands around my throat,
squeezing tightly while I choked.
The next poem is called My Refuge, My Sanctuary. Cry not one sorrowful tear for me, for them I have no use. I wouldn't change a single thing about suffering abuse. It's made me who I am today, a woman who is strong, a woman who has learned this much: abuse is very wrong.
Now I can challenge every negative, just one more thing to beat. The abuse was heaped upon me, it knocked me off my feet. But now I stand so proud and strong, I've beaten every quest. My future is brighter because Refuge answered my request.
Other women who can understand exactly how you feel, women who know the evil demons of abuse is very real. My life now, though, knows no demons, I am completely free. So take the hand that leads you and you will be free like me.
The Refuge was my sanctuary, a place where I could mend, a place where respect is normal and it became my friend, a place where people understand all of your awful pain. So don't leave until you're ready, gaining freedom is the game.
My time here was very positive, now my freedom is all mine. Refuge has taught me abuse is wrong, it threw me a lifeline. To think that I thought suicide would be my only escape. Thank goodness for this refuge, a life of freedom is my fate.
Just show a little patience. Things don't change overnight. You're in the safest place here. We all understand your plight. They'll show you kindness and lead you gently by the hand to live a life free from abuse forever to a happier, carefree land.
So see this as a stepping stone where new beginnings start, a place where you'll be fixed, take refuge to your heart. Relax and learn, you are entitled to be who you really are. Then just like me, you will be free and you too will go far.
Thank you.
Who's next?
Thank you very much. So next I think we have Aliva. Oh, hang on. Hello? Hello, hello? Aliva. Olivia, sorry.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Olivia and I'm a young girl who was unfortunate enough to go through domestic abuse, and I know there are many girls my age that have or are going through it. With the help of a program called Escape the Trap and my old social worker Louise, I was able to get myself out of that situation and see signs of abuse. During my time... Hello? Hello? Can someone help me? Thank you.
Put it quite close to you.
During...
There you go. Okay.
Okay. During my time doing Escape the Trap, I did creative writing to make it easier for myself to understand and relate to my own experience, and will be reading one of my pieces for you today. I am aware of the issues I try so desperately to ignore. I can see the flash of red behind his charming grin, and the cage of invisible bars forged by memories of weak-willed words of hope. But in this cage is a gap, broken in by words of friends and guidance of family. They shone a light on my cage when it was merely flimsy and half-built. I could have ran easily then, but I chose to believe it was only a mirage, a trick of their pessimistic light. As time went on, more bars were built, and I stood willingly oblivious to the trap enclosing in on me. This cage is what I loved, and foolishly thought I was safe behind its bars, but they cut deep when I stepped to leave. With every push or sugar-coated word, my cage became clearer, and I could finally see the jailer behind my pain. Everyone had told me, everyone had saw what I chose to ignore. My escape was always there. Every day it became harder and harder to see. But there I stood, looking the devil in the eyes, my escape tucked away behind his stance. To escape, I must go through him. He fed me the delicious honeyed lies I used to swallow so easily, and spat back the bitter salted truth. He offered me a start like it was, but it never was. It always wasn't. Wasn't happy, wasn't healthy, wasn't love. As I stretched my weak limbs through the bars, it stung and it burned, but on the other side was my friends. They pulled me together, all me and my broken pieces, into their arms, and I cried as they said their words, "I'm proud of you."
Thank you, Olivia. Okay, so next I think we have the Youth Council representatives to come and speak. Can I invite you to take the microphone? Like to introduce yourselves?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Adiola and I'm part of the Youth Council, but more specifically part of Youth Parliament.
Hi, my name's Anne-Marie and I'm a member of MK Youth Council. And today I'm going to be reading my poem Silence, which is about a man who chooses to ignore a woman's cries for help because he believes it doesn't affect him, which will then be followed by Adiola's speech. Yeah. Silence. She suffers in silence. He hurt her again, not with his actions, but with the words that he said. It isn't my problem, not my burden to bear. She has nobody to talk to, nobody that cares, and it isn't his problem. So why should he stay and listen to her fears and hurt and pain? It doesn't affect him. He moves on with ease. She fades away and nobody sees. The hurt and the pain another man caused, that wasn't his problem. He didn't inflict it. He could have stepped in and gave her support, but that was her issue and he wasn't the cause. And so she suffers in silence again and again. He's hurt her with words and he doesn't care.
Thank you, Hello? Yes. Is it on? Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm going to do my speech now. Milton Keynes Youth Council see and stand with white ribbon. We see females, the amount of hurt and torment they go through. Milton Keynes Council see and stand with you. Sexual assault, grooming, catcalling, sexual harassment, domestic violence, and so many more crimes, which are unfortunately almost always inflicted by men. Some are done to girls painfully over and over again. Milton Keynes Youth Council see and stand with you. As a majority of the girls in the council, share this hurt with you. The constant torment being a girl, always under the male gaze, running and hiding from men like it's a maze. Milton Keynes Youth Council want all girls and women to feel safe, and therefore we stand with white ribbon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And finally, I'd like to invite the Youth Mayor, Chloe, to come up and close our ceremony and invite us to put a white ribbon around the rose. So over to Chloe.
Hello. For those of you who don't know me already, I'm Chloe, the Youth Mayor of Milton Keynes. It's not working again. Oh dear. Can you hear me now? Yes. I stand here to welcome you to this important gathering in support of the White Ribbon Movement. Today we unite in solidarity to confront an issue that affects us all: violence against women. The white ribbon symbolises our commitment to ending this pervasive issue, fostering respect and promoting gender equality. Violence against women knows no boundaries. It transcends age, race and social status. It robs individuals of their dignity, safety and basic human rights. But it's within our power to bring about change by standing together, raising awareness and educating our communities. We can break the cycle of violence. We must challenge harmful stereotypes, redefine masculinity, and teach our youth about consent and respect from an early age. It's crucial to create safe spaces where survivors are supported, believed, and empowered to seek help without fear or judgment. Let us pledge to be allies and advocates, to listen without prejudice, and to speak up against any form of violence. Each of us has a role to play in creating a world where everyone feels safe and valued. Thank you for gathering at the Rose with us today. Together, we can be the driving force behind a society where the white ribbon's significance is not just a symbol, but a reality. Let's take action and ensure that every ribbon represents a step toward a future free from violence. And now, let us wrap this up with this white ribbon around the rose as a symbol and a reminder of our promises. Thank you.